Hi, what's up everyone? I'm GCROCK and welcome to today's video. I am going to be going over all of the in-game settings for Star Wars Outlaws. I know a lot of people like to see these before they purchase the game, especially people that want to see the accessibility settings. So I go over these in depth in this video and I don't miss a single setting. If you do like this sort of video, please be sure to give it a like and a comment down below so I know for future. And if you do want to support me even more, don't forget that you can use my Ubisoft content creator code GCROCK at checkout whenever you make purchases on Ubisoft Connect. So thank you for that, and thank you for Ubisoft for the code. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. There are quite a lot of settings to go through on this game. We'll start right at the top of the accessibility presets. With this, they've just got lots of different accessibility settings all through the different options. There's not actually one place to come just for those settings, if that makes sense, but the presets have been added. So if you just wanted to add a load of these settings at once, you can do. But if you are going to be going through the gameplay, controls, video, graphics, and the rest of them there, then these will have effect on the presets anyway. But however, if you will have a look at these first so you can just see how it looks like. You got the gameplay, cognitive, colors, vision, and hearing. On the gameplay, what you are able to do is set your gameplay experience by difficulty. You can just go on Explorer and have everything pretty much set to story and easy. There's Adventure, which is a little bit more difficult, Outlaw, and Scoundrel. You'll see I'm on Custom because I've gone through the other settings, which I'll show you in a moment. Same with the motor preset as well. You can turn that on or off. You can have basically everything on or everything off, but you can make it custom by going through the other settings. Camera preset is exactly the same, and it's pretty much the same as we go through this with the cognitive ones as well. You'll see mine's custom, but you can just turn them all on or off in this menu. And colors here will give you the different color options that you can have for color blindness or any other reason you might want to change the in-game colors. Vision, there's some vision options as well here. Again, mine's on custom. You can turn them all on or you can turn them all off. And then there's hearing as well, a few hearing options. You can have the hearing preset on or off. They are just the presets, and as I said, for the majority of that, they're all going to be under these other settings anyway. So let's go through and have a look. So gameplay, out of focus pause. When enabled, the game will automatically pause when the game window is out of focus. Pretty good to have that on. Combat, you can change the enemy difficulty, the player health, the wanted difficulty, and auto perfect cooling. Now, I've played this game before release. I'm going to be honest with you. There was a point where I just wanted to get through it as quick as I could to finish it in time to review it. So I did play for the majority on regular on both of those, but I'm going to say at over halfway, I switched it to story on both just to get it finished. Wanted difficulty I didn't touch, but one thing I definitely recommend, because it's quite annoying, is in combat with K shooter. Quite often it overheats and you need to hit like a reload button, say, but you just got to hit it at the right time to cool it down quicker. You can turn auto perfect cooling on, and this is amazing because it automatically calls the blaster perfectly, so you can just focus on other things, it says. Basically, just focus on combat and not have to worry about that. For me, I love this, and I'm going to have this on and stay on. In terms of difficulty, I am going to be trying to do some playthroughs on some of the higher difficulties, hard being the most difficult. Moving down to movement, you can have always sprint on if you want. I had fall protection on. This was by default, so whenever K stops automatically at dangerous edges or not, does not apply to sprinting or jumping. Basically just stops you from falling off edges. Even though this was on, I still did that a few times though. Not gonna lie. I don't know, maybe it's because I was sprinting or jumping. Visual, you can have Explorer mode if you want. This will basically remove the guiding color on core navigational elements in the world for a more immersive experience. But it won't work if high contrast mode is enabled. So this just means, like, I'm sure you know, but if you're in the environment, they do color code stuff to kind of give you a clue as that's where you want to go. Like you can see in that image there, there's some yellow coloring to that, which suggests that that is climbable. Having this on would just further enhance the experience, make it more immersive, and probably add to the difficulty as well. You've got screen shake intensity. Never touch this. That's just at 100 is how strong the screen shake effect is. There's the view angle. This is basically your field of view, so you can change your field of view when not aiming and also when aiming. I don't know what they were at default. I upped mine to 190 there. and they were fine. I kept them like that for the whole experience, my whole playthrough. There's some mini game settings as well, and I can imagine some people might want to change some of these. So the Kessel Sabak card reader, this is one of the games in the game that you can play, and you can do a lot of it as well. And it just changes like the numbers that are on the cards that you're using. Like by default, you have the stylized numerals, but you could just have simple numbers if you want, or you could even change it to just symbols on their own and you can count them. I just kept it as standard like that. There's the Kessel Sabak fast mode, so whether opponents turns are sped up to reduce the waiting time between turns in Kessel Sabak. I just kept that off. There's the Kessel Sabak helper logs, so whether events in Kessel Sabak trigger additional log lines. Kessel Sabak cheat minigame, this allows you to cheat when you're playing. So whether Kessel Sabak cheat minigames require inputs or autocomplete. Now, with this on, you have to have a minigame to make the cheat work. And I've tried this twice now and failed both. So this might be a good idea for me to turn off because I'm rubbish at it. But if you like that sort of thing, it's just a quick time event, leave it on and you'll either be able to cheat or not. But with it off, it'll complete automatically. You'll just always be able to cheat, which is quite nice. And this will also be very helpful with a trophy or achievement if you're like me, because there's an achievement where you've got to win someone Sabak by cheating. And if you can't do it, just come here, turn this off, and at least you know the cheat's going to be a guarantee. You just then need to worry about winning. Lockpicking rhythm challenge. So this decides whether lockpicking should have a rhythm-based challenge or be simplified. I had this on and I enjoyed this. You just use your data spike on the beat. So there'll be like some sort of beat. You got to figure it out and then use it on that beat. But if it's turned off, the beat is disabled and you just use your data spike until the lock is picked. Again, I think that's a great setting because if you don't, you're doing these that often, and if you hate that rhythm part of it and you just can't get into it and you're missing it. I had a few like that where I was missing quite a lot and I wondered why. It was annoying, but for the most part, I was okay. If it does annoy you though, just come here, turn this off and you won't need to worry about it. You can also change the lockpicking difficulty as well though. I did have it on default. You can have it on hard or you can have it on easy. So I imagine this will just make it easier rhythms, normal rhythms, harder rhythms for an even tougher challenge. Lockpicking visual clues, you can have this set to on. Basically, during lockpicking, extra visuals will be shown to assist. I imagine that's just going to give you an idea of when the rhythm's going to come to give you time to react, whereas when it's off, you don't get that time. Then there's some slicing settings as well. With slicing on, it enables a puzzle challenge for slicing electronics. But if it's off, I'm guessing that you don't even have this challenge at all, I imagine. I don't know. I only have it on for the entire thing. Slicing attempts, I had at default, but you could have more attempts. You could have fewer attempts. Default was fine, and I took a lot of tries on some of them, so I imagine that setting is perfect how it is. There's slicing numbered buttons. You can have this on, basically, instead of using the symbols, there'll be numbers instead. This will be much easier if, you know, if things like that, where you're looking at symbols, your brain just doesn't work with that. This is definitely a sort of accessibility setting, and you know, some people might want to do the mini game, but just can't do it because of the symbols. Or just come here, turn that on, turn it into numbers, and you'll have much more joy with still being able to take part in the mini game. I had that off throughout myself, though. The Galactic Street Through Challenge, these are awesome. There are 4 of these through your playthrough, 1 on each world. I definitely advise having it turned on. There's no worry with having it on and missing out on anything if you don't get to do it. But it decides whether the Galactic Street Food minigame has a time challenge or auto-completes. I really enjoyed doing these. I thought they were great. Default difficulty was hard enough. You can simplify it if you want. But I like the challenge. I'd keep this on default. I'd have this on. And if you do fail it, it doesn't matter. Nick still eats. You still eat. You don't lose anything. Fast Talk is next. And this is on by default, but you can turn this off if you want to. It's something that you got to unlock as you play, and once unlocked, it enables or disables K's Fast Talk ability. So I'm guessing here, if you turn it off, you just disable it. But I wouldn't recommend that because there are some objectives in the game that require you to complete Fast Talk. So I'm not sure if they like just give you them automatically if it's off. I doubt it. But there's also a achievement, I believe, that requires Fast Talk, if I'm right. So regardless, there's some things in this game that require this to be on. I'm not sure how the game handles it if you turn it off. I don't see why you'd want to turn it off either, because you can just change the fast talk time challenge. When you do a fast talk, there is a time challenge. If it is annoying you, you can just turn this off to make sure it completes automatically. And then there's Nick's prompts. So this decides whether Nick's actions require a prompt to complete them or auto-complete. I had this on. Sometimes I want to use Nick's to explode things and things like that. There's a prompt there to tap Q to finish it. That's all that means. If I turn that off, it just happened automatically. You then have space difficulty as well. Collision damage prevention. You can turn that on if you want. That just decides whether flying your starship into object causes damage or not. So that could be quite handy for some objectives in the game, just to make it a bit easier to complete if you're struggling with the space difficulty. You got the ion stun prevention as well. I had this off, but that decides whether the ion damage causes your starship to be stunned. And you got auto throttle in pursuit mode. I had this on, so whether your starship will automatically control the throttle during pursuit mode, this will try to keep your starship at optimal engagement distance from your target. So many gameplay settings there. Now the control settings, I'm not going to go through everything here because it's your personal preference, really. I'm sure you know how you want your controls to be, how you want your keybinds to be, or your controller to be. There are some advanced controls with sensitivity and things like that. All this is down to you. I'm sure you will want to play around with this to find the right sensitivity and settings for your play style. There's some good things like aim assist as well that you might want to check out here. But again, it's pointless me really telling you what I do and how I change things because you'll like different things. I do highly recommend having aim assist on though, otherwise it can be a little bit more difficult to get your aim on targets. I also don't recommend inverting anything either, unless you're one of those people that play inverted, which I think is crazy. But yeah, those are all down to you there. You got some video settings, and again, this is down to you and your system and your rig. You can see what I'm running here. I always have vertical sync off. That's highly recommended. Never have this on. Just don't. Just have it off. Display mode, I was playing borderless window. I've started doing that with a lot of games now. You can have it full screen, but there's not really much difference between having it borderless window, and it allows me to multitask much easier. So either full screen or borderless window there. My resolution's 2K. I fill the screen. But you can watch, well, you can play this in 21:9 there ratio, 21:9, and have it in like a cinema mode with the border at the top and bottom. I played like this for the first few missions of the game, the first couple of hours, and I was enjoying it, but then I switched it and preferred it at full screen. That's up to you. My monitor refresh rate is 165 Hertz. You can see the cinematics frame rate there. I had that as unlocked, so it wasn't capped. Frame rate limiter, have off, so you're not limited to frames. Obviously, console settings aren't going to have all this, but this is the PC settings here. There's NVIDIA Reflex low latency that you can turn on if you want, but it can affect your frames when you do that. So I just left that as off. I have no issue with that. I do that with most games. There's the out of focus sleep, screen calibration, upscaling. I didn't really touch anything else in these settings, so I don't have a lot of advice there. We move on to graphics. My quality was picked by NVIDIA Experience to just run at medium. There is some high settings in here, and if I go to advanced graphics, you see most stuff is on medium settings, some low there. Just how I like it when I'm recording on my system as well. Plus, I've got a very old rig. I'm using a 1080 Ti graphics card on a Ryzen 7 processor, you know, so I haven't got the latest stuff in there. I could probably have gone high, but when I'm recording at the same time and things like that, I just drop them a little bit. And again, this is up to you, really. Your rig, your system, you play it how you want to play it. There's some other basic things you can change here with depth of field. Motion blur, I did change that. I always turn motion blur right down. Like this was set, I don't know where it was by default, but I brought this right down. Camera motion blur, right down. Per object motion blur intensity, right down. So I changed all of that. I kept fill grain on, chromatic aberration on, and then there's some third-party tools there as well if you want to mess with those. And then there's the user interface as well. You can change some things here. There's interface text size that you can change. I didn't touch anything in here. The simpler fonts, if you want to use simpler fonts, use one font for everything instead of a stylized font for headings. You can capitalize keywords, which I had on. Colorblind presets. Here you can change these presets again. Increase contrast colors if you want to. HUD visibility, contextual HUD. I had it on, but you can change this. Lets you decide how often the heads-up display elements should be visible. HUD icon size, you can change that as well. HUD background, you can change this. You can add a background to behind the HUD to increase contrast and readability if you need it. Player compass, I had on. Center dot was off, but if you want, you can have a center dot on if you want that. And you can also change the size of that center dot also. You can have it big or small. Next, quick actions. I had an icon, but you can change this to a dot if you prefer, or it can just be completely hidden. Markers, you've got ping. So this decides whether objective and activity markers should display in the world as opposed to remain to the compass. Ping, the markers will display in the world. When you expand the objective tracker with tab, always will keep markers showing in the world at all times. So I did not know about this setting, if I'm being honest with you. I missed it, and I was holding tab forever to show the marker in the world. I was always pressing it. So I might actually change it and keep that on always. So it's just always shown in the world, so I can just point myself towards it and go rather than looking at the compass all the time. Distance unit, you can have metric or you can have imperial. Control reminders, whether control reminders are displayed on the side of the screen. There's threat sense, which I had on, which shows or hides threat senses for nearby enemies. And enemy state icons show or hide the icons that show how aware enemies are of K. Very handy to have on. You've got some map settings there. You can rotate map to player view. You can turn it on or have it off by default. And then menu narration, you can turn that on or off there. That just then leaves language and subtitles and audio. So voice language is English. In my settings, user interface language English. You can have speech subtitles, all which I add on. You can change the background color for them, the dialogue text color, the speaker name color, background speech subtitles. I had translated only. Again, you can change all the colors for them. The sound subtitles, which I had off, but you can turn them off if you want to and change some colors. You can change the text size as well. It's set to medium by default. And you can also have directional indicators on or off as well. And finally, audio. We don't really need to go over this. They're all your audio settings, where you want all your volumes to be for the different things. You can change your master volume, music volume, sound effects volume, hit feedback volume, voice volume, cinematics volume, controller, speaker. So they're all there for you as well. And there we go. They are all of the settings that are available for Star Wars Outlaws on PC. I'm sure consoles very similar as well. Let me know what you thought of the video. Some people like these settings videos because they want to see beforehand what accessibility settings there are, what other settings there are, and things like that before they buy the game. So I hope you have enjoyed it. I've gone through every single one there. Make sure you hit like on the video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe for more content. And if you want some more Star Wars Outlaws right away, there's a link to the playlist in the video description. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, take care and peace out.